Welcome to the Spa Girls podcast, the self-publishing podcast for authors. You're in the right place for the best writing, marketing, and publishing advice, plus interviews with industry experts and best-selling authors. I'm Cheryl Phipps.
I'm Shah Barrett.
I'm Wendy Vella.
And I'm Trudy J.
And sorry, people. Some people are losing it here.
Yeah, Wendy's just having a massive fit. But in the meantime, what we're going to talk about today on the podcast, everyone calm and happy thoughts, is just one thing. And so it's actually a book by Michael Mosley, who does all the health and fitnessy stuff. And this one is actually about kind of general things that you can do around in your life to kind of make changes. But we're going to focus it into our writing career. So
nice.
So
positive changes.
Positive changes. So just one thing. The idea is that you don't have to suddenly make all the big changes, change your whole life, move to Alaska and become a health and fitness guru and only eat eggplants. What you need to do,
or salmon, probably,
unless you want to.
Unless you want to, feel free to do all of those things if you want to, but most of us can't or won't. And the idea is that you can actually have just as powerful a change by just doing one thing, like making one change. And then people talk about the 1%. Like if you make 1% change in your habits now, over time, that will compound into something actually quite big, especially when you compare it to you not making that change. So we wanted to go through that, and actually Michael Mosley, or Dr. Michael Mosley, has a list of 10 things, and we're going to go through those 10 things and apply them to our writing and just talk about how you can use those and some of maybe some of the small changes that we think that you could make. Is that
nice?
Or we've made even
we've made exactly. So number one on his list is keep it simple. So I mean,
that is massive, though. Like, to be fair, I mean, I think I'm a prime example of someone who, especially on the podcast, we get so much information, and I'm just wanting to chase my tail constantly and do a whole lot of things. But I find when I refine that down and just keep things very simple, very focused, and very basic, I do a lot better mentally, and I get a lot more done.
I think if you look at what you are doing, and if it's working, and you want it to work a little bit better, you choose one of those things that you could tweak that may not necessarily take a lot of time or a lot of money, but you can work on the others at a later date. And I, as an example, a blurb. Sometimes when you are re-uploading a book because you've changed links or made some changes or whatever, it's a good time to just look at that blurb and just that one blurb and just have a look and see if it's still doing its thing, if it could be better, because usually it can.
And I think go Shah.
I was just going to say, it can also relate to things like when you're making a decision on a cover as well. Sometimes keeping it simple, and I don't necessarily mean a simple design, but maybe design elements, like keep it simple, have one, maybe two fonts on it. Don't have 5. Keep it simple in terms of the artwork. Don't try and put in, accurate scene depictions maybe from a pivotal point in the story. Just keep it simple with, conveying the genre in the heat level, for example, if you're writing romance. Don't I think of keeping it simple as not trying to reinvent the wheel, just run the wheel better.
Iteration, exactly. That's the one thing I was going to mention is, and we did this with the Spa Girls. We went on a retreat recently and we looked at some changes we could make to how we run things within our universe. And it wasn't things that were going to take us more time. We looked at what we were doing and looked at ways we could change the things we were doing and make them work better. So it was just, so it wasn't adding a whole bunch of extra work to what we were doing. It's like, hey, is this working how we want it to work? And what's one change or one small thing that we could do that would make it work better? And we found them. Like, it's funny how many things we were able to kind of look at and change and actually things are working better. And so just iteration. It's just looking at
simplifying.
And not
simplifying your life down. I think we're all like that, right?
Yeah.
You go, Trude.
I was going to say, coming from the queen of overcomplication and needs to make everything as complicated as possible, keeping it simple has actually been a sort of a revelation for me in many ways. Like the idea that it's simple is better. Like I always thought that complicated was better. So learning that actually it can be simple and also awesome was something I had to actually learn,
because we feel that it needs to be complicated to be good, right?
That's so true.
Yeah.
And we're all like that, and I'm exactly the same. And I look at something like, I've got a series that needs serious work because it's in my old series, and I look at it and I'm just like, oh, too much. Whoa, too many things. But if I just simplify that down and just look at one book and go, okay, the first book in the series needs work, let's deal with that at a time. But for me, I just see the whole picture and I'm just like, far too much work, can't be doing it, you know. And that's
then
the
nothing
thing
happens, right?
Yeah, like seeing that. And I think for me, sometimes it's just writing that down and go, okay, this is what I've got to do. What do I actually have to do? And then have a starting point, point one, cross that point off, done, starting point two, you know. And I think that for me, it works best if I actually work through it with someone. That's just, and then I can simplify it a bit more. But
that's actually one of the other points that we're about to make, Wendy. So hold that thought.
Did I lead? Yes. Did I segue?
You jumped, man. Okay, so the next point number 2 is be realistic. So, and this I think holds back to Sarah Cannon. So if anyone listened to Sarah Cannon's talk, and she talked about,
and if you haven't, you need to, just saying.
So good.
Yeah, and but one of the things she talks about in the HB90 course, apparently haven't done it, is that you work out how many hours you actually have, and then you work out how many, you know, we have all these amazing plans and all these things we do, and we expect that we're going to be able to do them, and then we get really upset that we can't do them in the month that we've given ourselves to do them. But when she makes her people work out how many hours they have, how many hours it'll take, and you can't fit 4,000 hours worth of work into 400 hours. So be realistic.
We like to kid ourselves, but boy, that's a way to burn out and stress.
Oh, absolutely. Nobody
not enjoying
should be
anything.
working 24 hours a day. Nobody should be working 12 hours a day if you can possibly avoid it. There may be times around launches and things like that where you have to do a few extra hours, or when you're coming up to a deadline. But basically, you need to make the what we do work for you, you know, in your lifestyle and everything, so that it's not, like we say, it's not complicated. It's just, this is what you do.
And longevity, right?
Yes.
For longevity, we have to be able to retain the pace we set. And if we go hard out, that's when we burned out. We do burn out.
Yeah, and we've seen it, right? We've all seen authors who are really up there selling, and then they burn out and they disappear. And you don't want to be that person. So exactly.
So it's approaching a problem. For me, it's about looking at a problem like, say, the 8 books in the series, not that it's bothering me, the 8 books in the series, and going, okay, this was written 10 years ago or whatever, you know, so I need to break it down and approach it in small bite-sized pieces, you know.
And how many you can actually manage to do in a month. Like, you're not going to fix that.
And if it doesn't happen in that month, what actually is going to happen?
Yeah.
Nothing really.
I think I think for a lot of us, being realistic is actually quite tricky, because we live in our imaginations a lot, so we can manage those worst case scenarios. We can develop those into a massive giant cinematic universe in our head, right? So and being realistic is an action.
That's a really good point, though. Like, actually ask yourself, what's the worst that would happen? Like, what's the worst that would happen if I didn't meet this arbitrary deadline that I've created in my head? Is the world going to end? Is it
exactly.
You know, like, probably not for most of us.
Where's the pressure coming from? You.
Yeah.
And the other thing I think is also part of be realistic is it's really important to remember that not everybody's gonna like your book. And also,
what?
I know.
I think that's wrong.
And also, reader reaction or reader behavior isn't a judgment, a personal judgment on your own worth. If you know, somebody returns a book, it could be for money purposes, right? It could be accounting purposes, or it could be that they pressed the wrong button. I've done that. When you're buying off your phone kind of thing.
Or it could just be one of those naughty people that likes to get a book.
It could be. But
basically get it for free.
Yeah. So I think be realistic that people's behaviour, I mean, any of us that have worked with the public and front-facing settings, you know, you
can't control what other people are doing. So that's where you have to control what you do the best you can. That's the deal.
And I think be realistic is, for me, it's expecting it. You know, expecting some weird things to happen from people.
and then managing your mindset. It's right. If we're thinking about this as just one thing, changes that you're making, then it's the
And
realism
it could
is
be
just
realistic
don't let that.
about how you deal with it, right? So don't look at your reviews, for example. I know a lot of, and we've had them on, there's no harm if authors do not want to read your reviews or do not want to go to Goodreads. It's totally fine. Get a friend to do it for you that's not emotionally connected. And if they see anything glaring areas, for example, in formatting, they can let you know without you having to dwell.
Perfect.
Just saying.
All right, next one, create a trigger. So
Ooh.
this is a one, I think it comes from Atomic Habits, which is that other book, and it's my understanding, and my understanding is that it's like, so every morning when you're brushing your teeth, do squats. And so the trigger is brushing your teeth, and then you're creating a trigger because you want to get stronger legs, so you do squats. So for us as writers, the creating a trigger could be what? Interesting.
For me, it's turning on Spotify onto my focus playlist. And even if I don't want to do something, or I don't want to sit at my desk because the sun's shining and I want to be out in the garden, once I put on my, it's sort of, I don't know. Yeah, it really changes. I just think 5 minutes and before I know it, an hour's gone and I've got a whole lot of work done. I
do the same thing, but for a slightly different reason. I've been putting my music on because it makes it fun for me. Sounds weird, but it's kind of like, it's like I'm dopamine hunting, obviously, often. And so the music is kind of like a fun thing. It makes it more fun. And
it lifts your energy, doesn't it?
It lifts my energy, and I can sometimes boogie in my seat as I'm typing or whatever. And I sing along. I have a writing list, and often I know people struggle to write and listen to music, but I can somehow zone it out when I'm actually writing. But if I'm not doing stuff where it's focused like writing, but I'm like replying to emails, I'll sing along and I'll boogie and do things like that. So that's another way of it, but it's another just the same thing. It's like a trigger. So when I'm there and it's keeping me there and it's helping me. What's an activity that's a trigger? Like, are you I'm just trying to think, like
I've got a chair that I sit in. When I sit in that chair, that's I write. Now a chair's a bit the same. You got a lazy boy that you sit in.
Lazy boy, yeah.
And
do you have
music
anything that you've attached to, like the toothbrush and squats thing? So is there an activity that you do, so you know every time I check my email, I know that I have to go in and
I open my diary as workday start.
Okay, okay. That's
First time I look at my diary as workday start. That's pretty much, that's what I do. And at the same time, at night, the last thing I do is look at my diary, write whatever I need to for the next day. Not that I'll ever understand what it says, but that's what I do. And then when I shut that at night,
nice,
it's like done. And that never used to be me. I always took my work upstairs. I always sat down in the lounge. I always worked, and now I've taken up this hideous habit of crocheting, which is terrible. But
they're cute.
Yeah, they're very odd. So that's the diary thing for me, is a real boom. Close, done, boom, done. I also have an external hard drive I plug in at the same time. It's all sort of a bit of I guess it's a routine, close the diary, close the computer, plug the hard drive in, we're done.
And that's a good habit for you, because you need to take that time away from your writing. And when you would write all the time if you really want, like if it was it wouldn't ruin your hands and ruin your body and make you a crazy person. Like,
no, it would, but that wouldn't matter. I would still
I know. So that's interesting. So those are triggers for another reason, and maybe that's just as important. Like, maybe for us, making that time can, space away from the writing and everything else is just as important. So doing that kind of thing. I haven't got any other examples of other triggers.
I think the thing to remember is we work and live in our life, like we don't leave to work. And I think that's something we have to, any advice that I would give a newbie would be establish those boundaries really early. And those boundaries, by that I mean work is this set time and non-work.
A routine.
Yeah, you know what I mean, because I think we tend to it's flowed over for me for so many years. So there has to be a moment where you go, right, I'm done, and even if you haven't got everything done for the day, and that was for me, it was like, I can't leave, I've got this to do. But now it's like, no, I've been here long enough.
Shut, it's done. One for me, and I'm not perfect at it, and the Spargers will know this, but we finished recording, and it's my job to download the MP4s, add the tags, change them to MP3, and then load it all up into Dropbox. And the files, so the multiple files that we get, and then load something to Facebook. And it's when I used to, like, so now what I try and do is do it straight after we finish recording.
How's that working for you?
It works mostly unless I've got something else on, like unless I'm rushing away to something else, and that's when I fall down. So if I've made another appointment or I'm having to rush off and do something else, then I don't do it, and then I forget. And so I know that I'm forgetful, and I have to sort of do things in a set time to kind of so that's what I'm trying to do, and I don't always do it, and these guys are sometimes reminding me, but it works better than when I didn't have that as my trigger. Like, we finish the podcast, I do it straight away, versus I'd be like, oh, I can't be bothered, I'm really tired, we've just done the podcast, I just want to relax. I'd go away, and then I'd forget about it, and then Shah would
I set a lot of alarms. I have weekly alarms set at all different times.
Do you?
Yeah.
On your phone, you mean?
Yeah. And it's just like, boom, I got to do this.
I wouldn't remember to pick up my child if I didn't have alarms. So that's
awesome. What's the next one?
Okay, sorry, that's
number 4.
Know why you are doing it. So know your why, which we have talked about many times.
And that's your why.
Do
you reckon the why should adjust though constantly?
Yes, I think. Well, we adjust.
I think it just does. It just does over time.
Do you actually physically stop and go, right, what's my why at the moment? Have you ever done that? No, you just adjust.
Only when we talk about it.
Yeah.
It's a trigger, isn't it?
Do you think are you talking about the small whys, or you, because like, how constantly would you change your why if you had would you do it once a year? Or are you talking
I've never done it, so that's me out.
Well, you know your why. You know why you're doing it though, don't you? You know, you're quite powerfully motivated.
I mean, personally, I think as our situations change, like around us, our circumstances, whether it's children growing or, parents being there or not being, levels of responsibilities to the rest of our life around writing, I do think that the why does adjust to that somehow.
100%. I think it does change. I just was curious when Wendy said it was changing constantly, whether she was thinking it was.
I think outside influences have a massive impact on why, for me anyway. Circumstances change in your life, right? So your why changes.
Absolutely.
I guess there's sort of short-term things that happen, like if you're dealing with someone being who is sick, or like when Zoe had a vomiting bug, a couple of weeks ago, I was up all night with her, and the next day was supposed to be a really productive day, and it wasn't, stuff like that.
We've all had those, right?
And my why is like, well, actually she's more important to me, and making sure she's okay.
There you go.
So it's, I guess that is, so
life happens. Right?
Life happens.
Life happens, man.
Okay, so that's, we kind of know, we've done episodes on why, so I don't think we need to worry about that one too deep, but just I think it is a good thing to note that it's important to know why you're doing it, so that creates motivation. Stick with it for at least a month. So I reckon TikTok is a good example of this. So when, like Wendy, you tried TikTok, didn't like
hardcore it. I got into TikTok. I think all of us, you, me, and Cher, all got into it at the same time.
Oh, I dabbled.
You dabbled. You played.
I didn't really get into it. I still have it.
I did. And I still really like TikTok, actually.
I don't go near it. I don't go near it at all now.
When I'm making my files for trailers or stuff like that, I'll load one up because it's just easy. I can, I can add that format to the formats that I'm doing. And so it's just something. So, however often that is, it's random.
I must admit, I was in there doing it a couple of times a day, giving it all. And then after a month, I was like, you know what? This is just bleeding me dry. Doing this as well as everything else.
But you gave it a shot for a month, and I think that's the point. Like
you did. You went boots and all, which I think is amazing.
Versus other things that you've tried for a month and kept going on, right? Like, so this is not just tried a couple of times, go, it's not working. You've got to give it a, try different variations. You did lots of different types of TikToks or whatever. And then once you've done it for a significant time, then you can look at it and see, but you can't otherwise.
You have to do that. This is what we're saying. I think this is a really important point, is that you can't try something for a week or two and say it didn't work. That's not how this game works. We all know that ads take time to bed in. We know that all ads, Amazon, Facebook, anything takes time to bed in. TikTok will be the same. Building up your followers and stuff. I mean, I think if we can offer anything, it's like you've got to give it a go. You cannot just dive into one thing and then that didn't work 2 weeks and then I'm going to try another thing the next 2 weeks. It's not the way.
Perseverance.
I would suggest that month is actually too short.
I was going to just about to say that.
I think I did like a couple of months, to be honest. I was at it for ages.
I reckon it was even 3 or 4 months.
Probably.
And I did too. And that was fine. But so anything that we're doing, especially like things like going wide, for example.
That's
you're not going to
at least a year. It's a year.
Exactly. It has to be, right?
Or like trying Facebook ads. Don't try it for 2 weeks, like Wendy said, because you're not going to get anywhere in 2 weeks. Or TikTok or anything. And
I also think this stick with it for a month is also can be related to you learning something, not just necessarily doing something, but also learning a new skill as well. So like I'm learning different types of, I'm pretty proficient in Photoshop now, but I would like to learn InDesign, and I know that I'll get frustrated. But I think anything that you're learning, I think you have to give yourself a lot of grace and stick with the learning of something for a month. You might not end up mastering it, but you know, whether it's Atticus or, you know,
there are so many.
Any type of particularly technology, I think it's very easy to look at other people and they just go click, 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 and it's all done. And it's real easy to get frustrated on that one. But I think, just when you're learning,
but you never saw how they got there, and you never saw how much time they put into it, or what their background is.
Absolutely.
It's like social media apps, right? Social platforms. I mean, what works? Facebook works for some, Insta works for others, TikTok works for. There's just so many. You got to give them a shot.
Not altogether.
Not altogether. Just pick one. Just one thing is what we're talking about, and
that lies the way to madness.
And stick with it for more than a month. I would say more than 6 months. I'll give it 6. That's my 2 cents.
It was like Facebook ads.
Unless social media are your jam, and then advertising is your jam. That's
But
Facebook ads were like a minefield, right? And you know, if you're going to do it, you've got to do it right, and you've got to spend the time to learn them, and you've got to do them. You can't just go and throw up a couple of ads and go, well, Facebook's not for me.
Yeah, exactly. So the next one is try to displace bad habits with good ones. So this is interesting. So bad habit might be getting distracted, or tidying your office instead of writing, like procrastinating.
Well, no, that's a good habit.
I think a bad habit of writing.
I think a bad habit is opening up social media, knowing that 10 minutes that you promised yourself is never gonna be 10 minutes. It's going to be hours, because if you know yourself, and you will after a little while when it comes to this kind of thing, then you know you can't do that. You have to do something else first, and probably it's going to be the writing. We're all different. Some of us can do that, but
very few. It's designed for us not to be able to do that, right?
Absolutely.
That's absolutely designed.
I'm a person who writes to the hour, and when I've done my hour or whatever I've done, I write to the hour, and then I look at the clock and go, okay, at 10 past, you've got 10 minutes on social media, and then you start again. And that's how I give, that's how I roll.
So I've been forced into a new way of working thanks to back injury, that I literally have to set a timer for 30 minutes and then stand up for 5, because I can't sit for longer than that. And that's, sometimes I think your body tells you, kind of forces you to a point where you have to stop sitting hunched over in a bad position, even though we know the proper ergonomic way of sitting. How many of us after a while kind of slump down and get into what's a comfortable position, and then 2 hours later we're stuck there like a crab trying to get out of its shell kind of thing. So I think it's better to take responsibility for doing it yourself first before your body forces you into a position.
But we know what we should be doing.
Yeah,
we all know what we should be doing.
Different for everyone, I think, too. It's like maybe this is a point where you take stock and look at, say, so for Wendy, maybe it was working too long, so she made sure that she shuts her computer and does all the stuff so she can have the evening off and give herself a break. For Shara, it's,
for me it was actually deleting the TikTok app off my phone, because I had no control. I would waste hours and hours doing research, and it was not good for me, and it did not serve me well in any way. The learning soon got overshadowed by all the bad stuff, and then the self-recrimination that I was not achieving things because I was spending all my time staring at that phone, or I wasn't taking part in, like, Wendy crochets at night, which is a really good healthy thing to do, instead of sitting on your phone scrolling, which is what I was doing. Sometimes that would be a bad habit replaced, and sometimes you have to pull the plug.
So Shea, what would be a bad habit that you've kind of replaced or done?
Well, I can still sit for a couple of hours if I'm really into a book or not. But now, like I said, I'm in a lazy boy, so I'm taking care of my back. I've got my wheat packs. I've got my feet up and down, and then I get up in between and do anything. Most of the time, 99% of the time, that anything is not related to writing. It could be something around the house. I like to do things like that, and I think your mind also needs a break. But there's lots of things that you can do, like housework or whatever, where you can be thinking about the next issue in your book, or the next thing you're going to write. Going for a walk, I mean, that's a great one to clear your head, and especially if you're struggling. So the bad habits for me is probably having sat for hours and hours and hours, literally all day long, apart from toilet breaks and food. And my back has not thanked me for it.
No. And self-care, right, is, I mean, we keep coming back there. I just started Pilates, and it's the most hideous thing I've been doing in ages, and nearly kills me, and everyone's half my age. But not that it's bugging me, but I'm already 3 weeks in and feeling stronger.
Just stretching. Gosh, stretching is a big deal. And if you can work that into your routine when you first get up in the morning, and when you get up out of your chair, or wherever you're writing, it's going to help you. It's going to give you longevity.
Okay, number 7 is try to do it daily. So regular, consistent action.
All those things. I mean,
don't do Pilates daily, you'd never be able to walk again. But
I mean, not everyone writes like this, but if you can write daily, you certainly get your word count up, right? Like exactly. If you make it and if it's just one thing, like there's just one small change you're making, and you do it daily, and it happens to be that you, I don't know.
Or it could be learning something. You spend 5 minutes maybe reading another chapter of a particular non-fiction book that's helping you, Like what?
And I mean, I go into that writing group now that I've forgotten the lady we had last week. Oh, right.
Yes.
Oh yeah, you were saying you were trying that.
So I go in there now. If I'm feeling a little bit blah and I don't want to write, or write as many words as I should, I go in there and I see these people, all these tallies, and I'm like, well, I'm going to beat you, I'm going to beat you, and I'm going to beat you.
Where was competition in you? I think maybe competition might have been quite high up for you as well.
Clifton Strength just came up for a game. We always bring that up in a podcast. But seriously, that works for me. There's no talking. There's no, you don't chat with anyone. All you see is totals, and you get these stars and stuff, and that just works for me. I'm just like, my husband will come along, how many stars you got, mate? And I'm like, I got a gold one, like, so
I'm beating everybody.
No. But like that if I'm feeling really unmotivated and I get in there and I see those people working somewhere around the world, I'm like, well, they're sitting in their computers at their desks, wherever they are in the world, and they're writing. There's nothing stopping me do it. And so I get in there and go,
what was it again?
Right.
OH, right.
Yeah. And you can start your own little write rooms if you want to, and stuff like that. But
maybe we could start a Spa Girls one.
Well, we could, and new people could join us.
Spa Girls community, that's what I mean.
So that works for me, and I think that's the thing with evolving and changing, like we were talking about. Like there's always an adjustment. I mean, how many years have we been writing? Forever, and this is my adjustment this year. From
and how you write, I think, changes too, don't you think? After a while, that evolves.
Okay,
so it's owrite.co. That's the website.
So go to OWrite Daily if we're going to do it daily. Number 8 is involve a friend or loved one. So your husband walks past and asks you how many stars. Well, you can't possibly tell him it's only 1 star, can you now?
Yeah.
No, he wouldn't know if I lied to him though, but that's to be honest.
Yeah.
But I think
Not would you be lying to him, or would you be lying to yourself? And that's
no, but I think some people need accountability, and I'm one of them.
Yeah.
And you
I
know,
think we all do, honestly.
Yeah.
I think there's very few people that have the most amazing self-discipline that they can act as their own accountability person. I mean, maybe there's a few, but I don't know.
some freaks out there that
even just a bit of support or congratulating you when you like, you know, like it's like when like my husband knows what a book bub is. You know, like how many, you know, anyone outside of writing world would be like, what?
If you said that word, they'd look at you like you're
like,
yeah.
Hello world, I got a book bub.
And I'm like, oh, I got a book bub, and he's like, oh, fantastic. No, you know, like, and that's just
you might have to prime them to understand it first, so then when you say
but we've talked, you know, we talk about these things often enough to them, so I guess they just kind of know, like and
I think it's all of us, it's a human need to be seen, and also I think for people to appreciate that this is a journey that we're on, and to kind of acknowledge that is really important as well for our own well-being too.
And kind of in that same line, number 9 is be kind to yourself.
Oh yes,
that is so true though, right? Because you're your own boss, you know, like you are your own boss, and you need you know, you're everything. You're the CEO, you're right through, so you're quite hard on yourself if things don't go well, and there's no one to step in and go, it's okay, I didn't teach you that right, or it's okay, we'll sort that out, all of us together, you know, like a boss or a few employees would. So it's all on you, isn't it? Everything. So you've got to,
if you're not going to be kind to yourself, no one else is, you know, like you're the most
exactly. You've got to be your own cheerleader. You really do. I mean, I think we're very lucky we've got each other to be cheerleaders for each other, and we're very proud of each other, but I think that you have to be proud of yourself too. Acknowledge your successes and as well as your failures.
And be, absolutely. I think it's even more important to be kind to yourself when a failure or a, you know, a
learning opportunity
arises. You know, or when you haven't met your targets or whatever, like all of that kind of stuff. I think you know.
There's a tendency to shame, right? There's a different. There's like that when you make yourself feel shame over not meeting a deadline or not doing something you thought you would. Well, that's really internalizing it, and maybe it doesn't. You don't. You know, that's not a positive emotion. That's not gonna achieve positive results. It's not going to get you anywhere. Like, why make yourself feel like crap? Like, acknowledge. You know, process, learn from, move on. You know, no need to beat yourself over the head. So I think that's
understanding failure is not the end. You know, like to succeed, we have to fail. We all know that.
Yeah, exactly. So number 10 is keep a record. And I like this. I think this is helpful. Like, almost like, and I don't know about you guys, but if I look back on this year, I'll be like, oh, I did a few things, but not that much. But actually, if you look back on everything that you've done and you'd written it down and go, actually, you know, we tend to kind of minimize and forget about all the work that we've actually done or where we're at, and actually writing it down or keeping a record is a great way to kind of acknowledge it.
So important. It really is. I'm going to show you something. So each month I
this
keep.
Is you, Shah.
Yes, this is so me.
So come to YouTube and look at what Shah's showing us now. It'll be a marvelous thing with full of stickers and colour and
it is. It's
washi tape.
So this is the second reason to watch this episode, because the first is to watch Wendy hysterically laughing at the beginning.
I'm getting a good month.
And now the second one.
So the reason I did this was because I'm really good on the self-shame thing, and I would get to the end of the month, get to the end of the quarter, or get to the end of the year. So this is keep a record. So I keep a Chivvies list in my diary, in my planner, and every time I do so here's an example from my February. Got a mammogram, booked the Cattery. Got a skin check. Like, it's not just work stuff, it's everything that I think is a positive thing. I don't remember, like, I mean, I remember those things, but I don't know when I did them, you know. Cleaned up my garden, started HB night, like, you know, it's all the writing stuff as well. I'm not going to go into the work stuff there too, but it's like those little glimmers of feel good things, I think are really, really important for us to write down. And I feel good doing it, and I really like looking back on them sometimes when I think, how can we be in, you know, this particular month, I feel like I've done nothing all year, you know, or nothing this quarter, and it's really important. And the other thing I think is really important to keep a record, and I learnt this through doing Sarah Cannon's HB90 course, which was keeping a note of how long it takes for you to do different things related to the writing life, author business. You know, how long does it take you to write a blurb, or how long does it, because I think most of us grossly underestimate how long it takes us to do things. I really do. And then that leads to a cycle of, well, I'm not getting things done, I'm, you know, not fast, everybody's fast, and it leads to that kind of spiraling downwards. So I'd say keep a record of everything that you do that's even, you know, doesn't matter what, write it down. And also I think it's a really good thing to know your numbers by how long it takes you to do things. It just tempers that over planning,
overestimating how much you can do and underestimating how much time you've got to do it in.
Yeah.
The right way around.
I think we're all guilty of that. I am.
Yeah.
I think most people are. Honestly, I think we all are, you know.
But you can do better.
It's like, you know, to get to somewhere on time, or to be on time for something, I think we always underestimate how long it's going to take us to get there, or overestimate how fast it is for us to get ready to go. So yeah,
that's cool. And one other aspect of that is I used it as a competitive thing against myself. So when I'm doing like sprints, I'll write how many words I wrote in that one sprint, have the break, and then try and beat that for the next sprint. So it's kind of like competitive against myself, and that those kind of little records are helpful too. So but that's the 10, and I think
nice.
That's a, you know, I mean, there's a lot in there.
I like them.
Like just one thing, and try and incorporate all of those things into those just one things, and you should be cool. Just one thing. Just one thing.
Agree.
Keep it simple, realistic, be kind. How's that? Down to 3.
Very good.
There's the only 3 that matter out of that whole list. Awesome. Well, thank you all for joining us for another episode of the Spa Girls podcast. Where can we be found? Where's the best place?
Well, we can be found at the spargirlspodcast.com, where we've got all of our previous hundreds and hundreds of episodes on there as well for you to listen to. If you're listening on the podcast app of your favorite choice at the moment, we would really appreciate you leaving a review, just to help the algorithms find us, just like on the retailers. We need to be found too, and we're at patreon.com/Spa Girls Podcast, where you can come along, support the show, and join our community.
And there's a free level now, so even if you don't want to give us the money, you can just come and join Patreon and be part of that and see what's happening. Check it out. Awesome. All right, well, thank you all for listening. That's another episode done.
Have a great week.
Have a good week. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.